Let's talk about nostalgia. Nostalgia has a bad reputation in the critical world. It appeals to the heart instead of the brain. It's safe, whereas critically successful media, the real artful stuff, should be progressive or take risks. And I tend to agree. But there are ways to take nostalgia and turn it into something engaging. For example, last year's Undertale exemplified the more melancholy aspects of nostalgia by subverting a lot of very safe, comfortable tropes from the games of my childhood. At the same time, there were aspects of its battle system and story progression that were fresh and interesting. The result was a game that used nostalgia as a tool to confront the player rather than to comfort him or her. But in this video, I'm focusing on a different game with a different approach to nostalgia. Transformers Devastation. This game is not so high-minded as Undertale, but it does use nostalgia in a successful, endearing way that doesn't feel like coddling. Basically, this game is focused entirely on looking, sounding, and feeling like an old episode of Transformers, while at the same time harkening back to vintage game design philosophies. It goes deeper than just surface familiarity though. The entire game is laid out like a TV episode, with cutscenes and boss battles that feel true to the source material and with most of the original voice cast on board. Every sound effect and graphical flourish feels spot on. This is worth lauding. So many licensed games try to capture a surface level understanding of the source material's look, but so few capture the way the source actually feels, or why people were drawn to the original inspiration in the first place. In that sense, Devastation is already a huge success. But the appeal and the nostalgia go much deeper than that. This game was developed by Platinum, who also gave the world top-tier action games like Bayonetta and Metal Gear Rising. That same level of care is mostly carried over here, giving each encounter a level of precision and speed that feels amazing. The combo system is not as complex, and the enemies are not as varied, but given the game's short length, there's just enough here to chew on to make every encounter feel engaging. Structurally, the entire game is a throwback to SNES beat-em-ups. It's designed to be beaten in a sugar-addled afternoon. Luckily, the game is structured around this idea. Unlike the games that inspired it, in Devastation you level up your characters and acquire new gear as you play, and this rolls over onto subsequent playthroughs. The game is designed to be played and replayed until you've mastered all of its systems and can destroy an entire screen full of evil robot men without breaking a sweat. Originally, this was extremely frustrating. I started my first playthrough on the hard difficulty, and then spent over an hour trying to whittle down the tutorial boss's lengthy, girthish life bar. Platinum have a reputation for making games that are challenging, but this seemed a tad excessive. This type of thing is where the throwback qualities start to curdle. After all, difficulty does not and probably should not equate to tedium or endurance, especially on a first boss. But once I went back through on normal, the game was a complete blast from start to finish. As someone with no actual nostalgia for the TV series, it was a strange couple hours of cognitive dissonance. It felt like being a kid again, even though I never experienced something quite like this as a kid. In that way, I think Transformers Devastation shows that there are ways to harness nostalgia for good that don't rely on the subversive techniques that games like Undertale employ. Instead, they can recapture the way games made us feel as kids when things were simple and fun and satisfying. And Transformers Devastation is all of those things.